potential wiretaps and information, but it really, the big story this morning is the president tweeting, talking about how he believes the Obama administration. I mean, a lot further. Once the president is validating it and saying he believes Trump Tower was wiretapped during the election in October, it adds a ton to this.
And just how big of a deal could this be? We want to bring in Lieutenant Colonel Col Shaffer for more on this. Good to have you here.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right, so this is all just breaking this morning, coming straight to us from the president, from his Twitter account. We don't have a whole lot of details here, but just on the surface, if this ends up being true, if this was the case, that the Trump Tower was wiretapped by, at that time, the sitting president, President Obama, how big of a deal would that be?
Oh, this is huge. I mean, this is Soviet, dare I say, Soviet-level wrongdoing. Look, President Obama has moved up to his Potemkin village and moved in Valerie Jarrett. We have to understand here, it's very likely that he did authorize this. And according to, I was on the drive-in just now. You guys called me a little bit late. I was talking to folks on the drive-in. This goes back to July of last year when rumors started on the dark net that even though the Obama administration was getting pushback from the internal mechanisms of the administration, like the FISA court, and by the way, there's going to be a paper trail at NSA on this. And let me say, John Brennan's probably involved in this. You have to have kind of 3 people inside doing this. And I think what's happened here is the paper trail that President Trump is referring to has finally showed up. So let me be very clear. The FISA court thing that Brett Baird just talked about, that's one piece of evidence. I'm sure there's others out there. So what this indicates is that this is really the Obama administration was taking on the form using their version of the FSB, the KGB, to go and target a candidate. Let me be clear on this for your audience. Simply because you don't like someone does not give you the right as a sitting president to do something like this.
And when you, as a sitting president, as you know, you endorsed the opposing candidate in Hillary Clinton, you have a dog in the fight. I want to put another piece of evidence on the table, since the New York Times has been leading some of the coverage on all of this. I was just sent an article from January 19th, where the New York Times, right before the inaugural, was talking about the investigations into the Russia connections with Donald Trump, and there was a line tucked in there, quote, one official said, intelligence reports based on some of the wiretapped communications, wiretapped communications, had been provided to the White House. Again, Tony, January 19th, the White House then was Barack Obama. So is this the source of some of these leaks that have been massive leaks coming out of the FBI, maybe the CIA, alleging all of these different things? Did it come from those wiretaps?
This is the Trump Tower, to the best of the Obama administration's ability, was wired for sound. And yes, there was reasons why Mr. Trump did not want to give up his own personal security, because he knew that people, close to him may very well become collectors of this sort of thing. Look, this is completely insidious. This is an order of magnitude worse than Watergate, where you've actually used the mechanisms of state, the power of a state, to go after a candidate for presidency. And by the way, they presumed that he was going to lose, so it wasn't even about him winning or losing. This was about trying to gain advantage for his side, in this case, Ms. Clinton. And again, let me be clear on this. This is, while the Democrats keep talking about the Russians, this is Soviet behavior. This is the very thing the Soviet Union would have engaged in back during the Cold War.
Colonel, what would have been the cover, the official cover for this surveillance, though? Because they wouldn't come out and say, okay, let's just surveil the opposite candidate. They'd say, okay, we've got evidence that we need to surveil. What are they surveilling on?
They're surveilling on, in this case, probably quote-unquote international contacts which relate to business transactions. Again, projection. We know for a fact the Clinton Foundation was indeed taking foreign money. A lot of people were recommending that you investigate that. They refused. But instead here, they focused all their energy on going after Trump over the quote-unquote international connections. And let me be clear on this. If there was anything to any of that, by now it would have been leaked, because you're referring back to what you said on the 19 January article. Everything is taped, and there's going to be tapes of all this stuff too, and the Trump administration is going to find them.
So now the question is, how can they prove it? How can the president prove this? I mean, he's put this out there now. The world has heard what the president is telling us. He's got to back that up, like I said.
Well,
so how does
once
he do
you put
it?
it out
walk
there,
a
if
fine
evidence
line.
is destroyed,
there's a problem. That's probably what we're going to find, some of it. But the other thing is you can't give up sensitive sources and methods. Some of this was used in ways, and look, I can't go into how we do things, but I'm telling you, there's very sophisticated collection things that the president is now read in on. He's probably asking some questions like, hey, now that I know this exists, could this have been used against me?
So how
and
does
I think
prove
that's
it?
where it's all going.
How does he prove it?
Precisely.
Is it going to be declassification of some aspect of it? Will it be, I mean, what's the best route potentially?
I think potentially you've got to say this is what happened on these dates and leave out the technology specifically, but then go and bring in those accountable. And I dare I say there's probably going to be some whistleblowers coming in to talk about this. This is serious. This is as serious as it gets.
Yeah, but just to clarify, you think that there is enough evidence that has been given to the president for him to make this claim,
no doubt,
to make this statement. That's not just coming from nowhere.
Yeah, I don't doubt for a minute that Mr. Trump has got sufficient, I would say, critical mass of evidence saying there's something really wrong here. And again, as a president, you start learning little by little about collection capabilities. You have to get right into them. And so naturally, as you start learning about stuff, you start questioning how could this have been used against me in some form? And then you start asking harder questions. So I do believe this is one of the tripwires that I've been talking about in the network for the past month. These people have been trying to find ways to get intelligence on the president and his team for purposes of trying to discredit him. And I think this is what we're seeing here.
So we've got to wrap up. But for folks waking up right now, I mean, is this a game-changer moment if what the president has is revealed?
Oh, no doubt.
I mean,
we're talking about the potential of indictments of a former sitting president and his staff, and that's never been, it's unheard of.
Tony Shaffer has been ahead of the curve on this story. As you mentioned, he's been on this program for a month talking about all
Lieutenant Colonel, you are the best. Thanks for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.